Hi, whenever you complain about bad air in the cities, what do we talk about? People say, let's go green, and everybody should go green, and we must buy an EV, and you must stop consuming energy and all of that. Today, we get into delving about what does that really mean? Where are we at? Where do we need to get to? Should we buy an electric vehicle? How to go about buying an electric vehicle? And also, should you invest in EV technologies, right? Now, these are a couple of things that are very important for us to know today. Right now, as we speak, there's an e racing going on in Hyderabad. Now, this is seminal for India because it's the ninth season of Formula E racing, which is racing these electric supercars. Uh, Formula E is important for us because what that represents is the future of racing. But more importantly, it determines what technologies will succeed. It's actually a huge test bed for technologies. I'll give you a quick example. If you notice that your cars under the dashboard are curved, right? They're not straight, they're not flat, they're simply curved. What that does is when you have a collision, it saves your knees from breaking. Now, where does all that come from? That's actually one of the big innovations that has come from motorsport. So, motorsport talks about the efficiency of motors, it talks about the efficiency of cars, it talks about safety because when you're running at 200 miles per hour, like that crazy speed, you do need to have very, very safe cars. Now, all of these innovations then go into cars. Now, in electric cars, you have the additional problem of highly inflammable batteries right now. So Formula E is very important for us. It tests the cars for tomorrow. It's also the future of racing, which means it's a great place for where our companies can test technologies. And as you can see, we have the Jaguar TCS team that is racing out there. Now, this is a world-renowned team right now. Um, the subject obviously has suddenly gathered steam. It has gathered huge steam. It's been all over the media. And the big reason why it's been all over the media because the second package of EVs and XEVs, so XEVs are your hybrids and so on, the packages that have been announced for adoption of all of these things in the country. Now, rightly so, what the government is focusing on is not personal cars as much as turning our entire public transport fleet green. It started off with a pretty low end, uh, below the radar thing like e-rickshaws. It's gone on to e-taxis. Now, there are things like triple e-taxi and a bunch of others that are very big now in providing electric mobility solutions. And cities are gathering their funds to start pushing for electric buses, which reduce pollution. They're easier for drivers to drive. They have little or no vibration, so they're great for passengers as well, whether they're sitting or standing. What's happening to enable all of this? Well, the big news was lithium deposits discovered in J&K. Coincidentally, at the same time as there's a motor show and a motor race, both electric, going on in Hyderabad right now. These are key components. Lithium is a key component in batteries today as the technology exists. Obviously, that's being improved upon because we've never had great lithium deposits, and we would have been perpetually reliant on other countries for importing lithium, which is quite a scarce commodity unless you start to filter it in huge quantities from seawater. The big advantage would be that the cars would become cheaper because about 50, 60, 70% of the value of the car is the battery. The add-on benefit will be that the mobile phones or pretty much anything that uses lithium batteries will become cheaper. Now that could be, home usage, it could be other vehicles, it could be devices and so on. We now also have a slew of launches. The FAME 2 approved vehicles are out there. We'll just get into that data in a moment. Tatas and Mahindras, of course, are the big players in the space that have been looking at launching a whole new range of products in the space. Of course, the big news today is the Hyderabad e-motor show. Now, the Hyderabad e-motor show, understand that motor is a misnomer, because it doesn't just look at electric vehicles. Obviously, all the new upcoming vehicles and concepts are out there. You are looking at huge amount of infrastructure for electric vehicles, right? You're looking at what are the storage technologies that are important. You're looking at obviously the vehicles, but you're also looking at 2, 3, and 4 wheelers from global players. And you're looking at both the personal and the commercial. Now, the commercial space is huge because while you have personal commercial mobility, you do not have a big move into commercial goods mobility right now. These are so the question arises: should you consider moving to electric vehicles, right? So there are a couple of big things, and this is again coming from a friend of mine who runs a big fleet of electric taxi services. They obviously are pretty high tech. They embed their spare capacity into your aggregators. They do a great job of testing out different vehicles. So the big thing that they mentioned was that while it costs them ₹4 something to run a normal hydrocarbon driven vehicle, the costs of running that electric vehicle is 1/4. The problem obviously was infrastructure, because back in the day they were not able to find so many chargers. They're obviously environmentally friendly because there is no tailpipe emission, which does not mean the industry itself has zero pollution, because you do have a lot of costs that come from mining and manufacturing and so on. But at the tailpipe end, there is nothing. Obviously, there's a big move to move these things. They're very easy to drive. Effectively, these vehicles have a lot of new technology that come in. I mean, they're almost function from an infrastructure, from an architecture perspective. They function like smartphones. So they're pretty great when it comes to the drivability. They're also quiet. One of the big reasons that you see that electric vehicles are so comfortable to ride in is because they do not vibrate. And literally, there is about a tenth of the number of moving parts that are there in an electric vehicle as compared to a normal vehicle. That effectively puts your body at ease. There's low noise. There's no noise. That vibrations do not exist. So it's super comfortable to ride in, drive in, and be driven in. It has a ton of financial benefits as well, not just from the running bits of it, because there are a huge number of government incentives that are available to people that buy electric vehicles the world over, and that is the case in India as well. We have to see how those incentives play out going forward. There's obviously big time saving and effort saving, because you actually don't have to go anywhere. You can just put up a charger at home. Every evening you just top up your vehicle and that's good to go. On highways, you can charge it in other convenient locations. 30 minutes to 1 hour is what the charging time is. It's pretty much what you would take to have lunch. The charging infrastructure is obviously growing leaps and bounds. We have what you see right now is the data from Government of India, where the chargers are. This does not include personal chargers. These are public chargers that you can use. And this has come from utilities like Tata Power and a bunch of others. The Delhi-Chandigarh highway has been converted into an E-enabled highway. So there are about 20 chargers there, which is more than enough. I mean, 20 charging points, not just 20 chargers, which is more than enough for anybody traveling between the two cities to top up the charge on their vehicle. And this is our big government initiatives where the various ministries have categorized charging as a service, so it doesn't really require a license. The other big thing is helping you make your decision. So while you have a lot of websites that talk about which car you should buy, what are the mileage, etc., very few provide you with the right tools to compare what is it that is involved in getting an electric vehicle, and what is it going to cost you, and how does it compare with your existing bunch of options. So you have the amrit site, which deals with everything electric. It's pretty snazzy, slick piece of web design out there, which is quite friendly. Now you can see the big decision. I mean, this is a screenshot from one of their tools that is out there, which answers your question as to should you switch to electric vehicles. So it looks at expenses, it looks at running costs, etc., and then helps you make a decision. The other bits of it are about comparison. You can compare different vehicles. You can also look at, yeah, look, you're all suffering from huge electricity bills, let's say, and you want to know what it's going to cost you additionally to charge, and you can compare that with what you're spending on fuel right now. You will also be able to compare what is the time and the cost of charging at a public place. So, what's it going to cost you to, let's say, put up a charger in your office that is maybe shared with a bunch of other people, because you don't really need to charge a vehicle for 8 hours every time you drive it to the office or from the office. Right? So the big so that's on the personal side. Now, if one were to look at it as an investment option, so what's really happening? What is the future of electric vehicles looking like in India, and why is it picking pace? The first thing is 100% FDI. When companies come to India, they mostly will not want to deal with external partners, largely on account of sharing intellectual property and so on. So the government has said, look, you guys can come in and set up 100% owned uh, units out here. 100% FDI is entirely possible. There are manufacturing hubs that are being created, which will support. So, I mean, everybody doesn't do everything, and mostly electric vehicles look at sourcing quality parts so they can assemble a good vehicle. And these kind of manufacturing hubs will help provide that ecosystem. The infrastructure is strengthening. So you have electric vehicle charging is the big one. We've already discussed that. There is infrastructure for buying, maintaining vehicles. You have infrastructure for taking care of maintaining parts of it. So all of that is already in. And also there are big subsidies that are available. Uh, the policy is favoring deeper discounts. You've got localized battery storage production and so on going on. Obviously, that whole lithium deposit being found will be a big help in domesticating, rather pushing electric vehicle battery production to the country. So this is growing fast. You have about a $3.2 billion market. So convert that at about 82 rupees. It's like pretty substantial. This industry on the average is growing at 36%. Now this is relevant if you're an investor, but understand that these things were quite, uh, small in their in the sales and so on for quite some time, and only in the last few years it has really picked up. Last year, there were 9.9 lakh vehicles sold. Now, please understand these are like pretty much all the vehicles. Large part of them will be two-wheelers, which is about 60% of the uptake. So that move has happened. Nobody wants to go to the petrol pump if they can avoid it. And the joy of charging your vehicle at home overnight is what's the big convenience, right? Low noise, low pollution, cheap to operate, saves time. The cumulative investment today is about 180 billion, and we have about 380 EV manufacturers in India right now. This is a very big number. So the ecosystem is big, and we expect this market to be 113, 114 billion by 2029, which is in another 5-6 years time. This market is going to exponentially grow. So what's the FAME 2 outlook looking like? Mahindra has got about 6 to 8 at the last count. Tata's have about 11. That's the last graph that you may not be able to see on this. And other big player has another 4 XEV plus other FAME 2 vehicles. Now, FAME 2 basically talks about not about personal transport, though that's a part of it. It's a smaller part of it. It talks about incentives for big electric mobility movements like hybrids and electric buses and so on. The L1s and L2 effectively refer to what kind of charging technology is involved. The two-wheeler market is obviously the huge one, where you have a massive number of players And because India is such a huge two-wheeler market, is where you will see an explosive growth coming in. But it's important that this is, and this is relevant because, if you start to put the charges everywhere, the shift to the two-wheeler side of it is going to be quite rapid, which in itself will aid the four-wheeler space, which in turn will aid the large public transport move to electric vehicles. So now the other interesting thing to note is that we've already have the technology. The technology already exists in the country. The problem is that it's going to be expensive. Now, but the main thing that you see is that manufacturers like Volkswagen, who've invested a huge amount of money in in developing a brand new electric platform, is already in the country, and they're operating globally. So you've got this whole transfusion of technologies from outside that's aiding the development and the sale and the advent of brand new electric vehicle technologies in the country. The three-wheeler is an interesting space because this is where it all started. And if you go to the hinterland, you will see a massive number of those 6 to 7 seater three-wheeled e-rickshaws that have just taken the area by storm. You no longer see these tempos and the polluting Vikrams and so on, or the Ganeshas. Now, these e-rickshaws are pretty low tech. They move quietly. They operate on existing battery technology. But I think there's a huge opportunity out here, both in the people movement space, to redesign these things so that they become lighter and more robust, and also to convert these into turning into goods carriers. These things have obviously been supported by the government. Maharashtra has, taken delivery of its I think about almost 400 buses are there, and they're trying to convert the entire fleet in Mumbai into electric. Now, what's all this been supported by? The government has said, look, we want to do this because obviously the big reason is that we don't want to be that dependent on oil. Oil use will never end because it's used for everything from fertilizer to aviation fuel and turning those things into electric is not even possible. So it's supported by the government. You've had more than a decade of consistent support, irrespective of who's been at the center, who's been at the state. FAME and PLI incentives are big. PLI stands for obviously production linked incentives that are helping the industry grow. You have huge tax benefits, and there is a big focus on Make in India. And obviously, this whole lithium thing is a big move towards Make in India because it indigenizes a lot of things. So, what's the investment rationale for investing in the EV technology space? And I just don't mean, buy Tata Motors or one of those things. No, we're talking about investing in EV technologies. And the big one is that market is in a high growth phase. Because we're starting at such a low base, the ones that exist today and that are able to track the needs of the Indian market will pay off. There are big incentives to do this. That's huge benefits to the industry. Is going to continue for a while because the government has a long way to go from its own targets of converting gas-driven, hydrocarbon-driven mobility into e-mobility. And then there is the FDI. As global markets start to get saturated, Indian market will really pick up. And what we are going to do, therefore, is to develop technologies that are suitable for India and adapt global technologies that are suitable for India. The 5 things, therefore, in summation, that you should know whether you're buying electric vehicles or planning to invest in EV technologies and related technology. Infrastructure is growing at a fast pace with cross-platform compatibility, which means that unlike the world, we do not look at a future with proprietary plugs. I mean, basic stuff like that. You will be able to charge your vehicle wherever. 2 to 3 wheeler growth is going to be the big push. With simpler tech and cost, it doesn't really need all that full self-driving and those kind of things. You will look at adoption of alternative uses, such as, when you don't have power, you can simply plug your car into your house, or works like an inverter. I mean, that technology exists. Prices are set to fall, not in the least because of lithium, but because of the volumes that are getting produced in India. It looks at better costs for consumers. It looks at great margins for manufacturers. So what are the kinks installing home chargers? A whole bunch of societies even today have these problems, and you don't want to put it on the wall, you don't want to put it here, there, but eventually one law gets passed that ends. Some places with irregular power supply, you still need to figure out how you're going to charge your vehicles if you have irregular power supply. And last but not the least, competition is going to heat up. So it would be important to choose the right company to do this. So that was a long discussion on electric vehicles, whether they make sense for us, how to go about buying one, what are the things that you should look at if you're considering those for business or for commercial use. I hope you liked it. Do subscribe and like to the channel. Do share it with others who you think would find it useful. Till the next time, I bid you adieu and look forward to connecting on another interesting topic soon. Thank you.